Hey everyone, it's EverythingeeB here. In today's video, I'm going to be examining the rise and fall of Sun Microsystems. Sun was the pinnacle of Silicon Valley in the 90s, but it fell from grace in the early 2000s after a series of poor decisions were made and the dot-com burst left them short in cash. They would never recover, and in 2009, they were sold to Oracle for $7.8 billion. In today's video, we are going to be exploring the history of Sun Microsystems and how they rose to become the biggest Silicon Valley company and how they lost it all. The story of Sun begins with its founder, Andy Bechtolsheim, in the early 80s. He was a graduate student at Stanford University in Palo Alto. While he was a student there, he designed the first Sun workstation, which would go on to be a staple in his later business. The machine had a Motorola 68K processor with an advanced memory management unit to run Unix operating systems. He built the first machine with spare parts from the university's spare parts collection. He would later create the company with other graduates from Stanford, William Joy, Scott McNealy, and Vinod Kholsa, on February 24, 1982. The company was focused on selling low-cost, high-performance workstations. They found almost immediate success and acceptance among engineers, software developers, and scientists for their workstations. As a result, the company was profitable from its first quarter in July of 1982. However, they didn't have any backing from any other sources for developing their machines. They solved that the next year in 1983 when they signed a multi-million-dollar OEM deal with Computer Vision Corporation. In 1984, Vinod Kholsa, one of the founders, became the CEO of the company. Another one of the founders, Scott McNealy, struck up more equity deals with other companies such as AT&T and Xerox, to name a couple. The deals helped make the companies start becoming profitable, and by 1988 they passed the $1 billion in profits mark. At the time, the only other company to do that was actually Compaq, and Sun had only one quarter that wasn't profitable at that time. That is very impressive, even by today's standards. Because of Sun relying on Unix operating systems to run their machines, they were able to claim the market to be open, unlike their competitors. Unix also had the advantage of being able to run the ARPANET, which was the predecessor of sorts to the internet. This made Sun's workstations more popular as internet servers, and other companies such as HP and IBM started to shift towards Unix as well. It was around this time that Sun engineers would invent one of many technologies that is still used today, and that was the network file system software, which allowed people to share files using computers on the internet. Trouble came knocking from another company, however. Microsoft was envious of Sun's success in using Unix-based OSs to power their machines, so they signed a contract with the company Wintel to create machines powered by Intel and running the Windows NT operating system. Wintel started to compete with Sun in the early 1990s. Sun's computers for the first time became more expensive and complicated to operate than the Wintel machines. Wintel ended up controlling more of the desktop market, while Sun controlled more of the server market with their SPARC-based machines. It was around the mid-1990s that Sun released the Java programming language. The idea behind Java was emphasized by its motto of sorts, which was write once, run anywhere. It meant that if a Java program ran on a Sun workstation, it should, in theory, be able to run on a Mac or Windows through the Java virtual machine. This became generally true until Microsoft decided to nuke the concept with Windows 98, to say the least. They bundled a version of Java that wasn't compatible with other versions of Java. Sun sued, and the judge ruled that Microsoft had to remove it in 2003. So up until the dot-com burst, Sun was doing alright, but a few problems started to come up. The first one was x86 processors becoming more powerful than the SPARC processors that Sun was making. They tried to make it more powerful, but the SPARC architecture just couldn't compete with x86. In 2002, they ended up realizing this and started to manufacture x86 Sun workstations. However, it was too late at that point. The dot-com burst nuked the profits for Sun when it happened. After reporting net income of $1.85 billion in fiscal 2000, that number was halved to $927 million in 2001. Sun lost $628 million in 2002 and a whopping $2.4 billion in 2003. It returned to profitability in 2007, but ultimately the company reported net losses in 3 of the 4 most recent quarters. They were coming to their end fast, and it took the Great Recession of 2007 to 2008 to finally end them. By 2009, they were struggling with no net income to show. Then IBM came around. They offered a whopping $7 billion to buy Sun, which was likely more than the company was worth. They declined, but then Oracle ended up stepping in instead after seeing IBM's public offer. They offered very little over IBM's $7.8 billion. However, this time Sun actually ended up accepting because they were familiar with Oracle. The deal was ended up completing in early 2010. So this is about it, how Sun Microsystems went from being once the pinnacle of innovation in Silicon Valley to being another failed company in Silicon Valley's history. Despite this, they left behind network technology and Java for the world and Oracle to have. That's all for this video. I'm sorry if it seems like I didn't really know much about the subject, as there seems to be a lack of information on the internet about Sun Microsystems' history. If you didn't like this video, don't consider subscribing, and I will see you guys for the next one.